Welcome, and thank you for joining for another whiskey review. Today, we're going to take a look at this Laphroaig 22 from I want to make sure I get this right, the Single Malts of Scotland, SMOS, 22-year-old Laphroaig, Directors Special. Dustin, have never had, I know they have a few of these bottles. I never tried one from this, what is now called Elixir Distilleries, even though they don't distill anything.
Maybe they're starting.
Maybe they're starting. I'm not sure. But this came pretty well recommended, so I picked up a few bottles. This one is from a single sherry cask. It doesn't say if it's PX or if it's Oloroso, but we'll get to the bottom of that. 464 total bottles, Dustin. This one comes in at 52.6% ABV. And look at that natural color, man. That is a dark whiskey. And just show you a little bit the box, the presentation. Picked up a couple of these. Nice wooden box. You open it up, has a nice little leaflet in there. Tell you a little bit about the whiskey. They give their thoughts and tasting notes. Pretty decent box, other than the little medallion here that came loose on it.
Yeah, it just fell off like the first time we were together drinking it.
Well, the important thing is the whiskey in the bottle. And I tell you what, man, I like this bottle because it's clear. You can see the whiskey, especially since it's natural color. Got a good,
I'll agree with that for sure.
Base on the back of that thing. So we'll get into
I
this.
like it's wide too, which gives you a nice, it helps the color, kind of just gives you more whiskey view.
Yeah, so this came pretty highly recommended. They kind of floated around a few places here in the U.S. Guy who never had it, found out later, recommended it to me, and then
forced him to buy it.
Yeah, so then I pick up a couple of them, and he's like, "Oh man, I finally got a chance to try that. I didn't like it." So I was like, "All right, well, that's weird."
And as we've had at least one comment. I want to say two comments about this in other reviews. So,
yeah,
there's definitely been a few of you guys asking. So we're here to help out the few, the proud, the people who can spend $800 on a whiskey.
A bottle of whiskey. That's about what these go for. So yeah, it's a relatively new release. Just came out 6-7 months ago. So I tell you what, picked up a couple bottles. We got into this right away. It's a very dark whiskey, and if I remember correctly, it's about as aggressive on the smell as it is on the color. Let's get into it.
It is. It's punchy, man. And, I mean, it's straight up like cigarette smoke, just bam, right there in your face. Mm-hmm. The medicinal Laphroaig just comes right in there. As I always kind of come up with this candied cigar thing from my youth. Mm-hmm. A little bit of that's in there. And man, it's got a little bit of a sour, just punch of sherry that kind of got my nostrils shaking up a bit there.
Yeah, this feels, it doesn't say if it's a first fill, if it's just, the second fill. This feels incredibly aggressive, what the sherry cask did. But you're right. It is a sooty Laphroaig. You said ashy. I agree with all that, cigarette ash. But it is just incredibly sooty. Sooty and smoky with just a huge wallop of sherry along with it. Huge overcoat of sherry.
There's a funk in here too, Mike. I mean, almost like kind of barbecue, something kind of gone sour, a little...
Buddy, I tell you what.
Funky, a little Springbank-esque, if I dare say.
Sure. I've drank this down a few times. I've tried it. I know what note you're talking about. And hear me out here.
Okay.
Honey glaze on barbecue. A little bit of that honey glaze on barbecue along with that little bit of ash. And that's a little bit of the sweetness finally coming back in here because it takes a minute. Initially, it's a big wallop of smoke in Laphroaig.
What's your least favorite part of the barbecue, Mike?
The brisket or the bark?
Yeah, there's the bark.
The bark. I know. It's right there. It smells good,
black
though.
Bark.
Mm-hmm. It smells good, though. Yeah, we give with like a honey glaze over it.
Yeah, well, I was going to say barbecue. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we're definitely on. But there is a sourness to this that just keeps coming back to me.
So it also, after a little bit, those overpowering notes, it does kind of segue into some nice fruits, but they're dark. I think specifically dark cherry and like a dark raspberry. I could see maybe like a blackberry or something on those lines as well.
There's some cinnamon in here. Mm-hmm. It's almost like if you put a blackberry in soy sauce.
It's bouncing back between the sweetness and like the more meaty notes. Now, I'm having a lot of fun with this whiskey, but what I will say about this whiskey in a negative light is it's not very balanced. There's a lot of things going in a lot of directions here.
Well, I'm kind of the funny thing is the alcohol is actually catching my nose a little bit.
It's aggressive.
You'll notice I'll sometimes cough a little bit when I get hit with a high alcohol, and sometimes I'll sneeze. I'm coughing a little bit here, and I don't know what it is.
Oh, man, it's aggressive. Man, that is a pungent cask. And to me, I'm not really picking up any like dark chocolate notes. So I've heard people say both ways, but I think this is a PX cask because the sweetness on this is just over the top.
I don't get the PX. I don't get the PX profile, though. I get Oloroso notes. You're right, it's sweet, but I think that's the malt. I think it's the malt. I think this is a refilled. So I think they probably did a first fill for 2-3 years with this cask. This is a refill. And I think sometimes refills get really sweet, especially peated whiskeys. Like I've got a Kalila that I think of like strawberries and stuff when I drink that, refilled sherry butt.
Yeah, I mean, it's, who knows? We're guessing here. It could be either. If it isn't a first fill cask, it's a very aggressive cask that had plenty of give left in it.
Yeah, this was definitely not this was not tired.
All right, now for me, man, I'm really kind of picking up more of the sugary notes, and a lot of the fruits are kind of coming up now. Again, the fruits are very dark, and they're still really sooty, like they're really covered in all that Laphroaig just cigarette tar soot right now.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I've ever had Laphroaig this sooty before. I've had Lagavulin sooty, but this is a sooty Laphroaig.
It is dirty. I mean, again, every time I nose this, Mike, it's stinging and burning my nose from like pepper and cinnamon.
Yes, pepper and cinnamon. Right. There's a lot of spice in here. I haven't gotten to that.
Like it's almost like you're doing the cinnamon challenge a little bit, like trying to like get in there. Yeah, you're right. The fruit's there. I keep getting hints of apple cider, but it's not apple cider. It doesn't have that. I don't know if it's not apple, but it's like a cider of some sort.
Okay, it's almost like a chutney. It's almost like some type of jam, or like a blueberry, or like a blackberry chutney almost. It's rich, and there's almost like a cola note at the end of it too.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's it's vanilla-esque, sweet, starting to get a little pastry, but man, I'm telling you, Mike, that soot and smoke, just every time you go back into it, you give it like a half second, it recharges it.
Yeah, it's aggressive, man. It almost, when you said kind of before, sometimes when it's this aggressive, this much alcohol, kind of sneeze, it almost comes off like a Coke. Like when you first open it, like it is just, it's popping.
I mean, it's almost like you've got a can of like potpourri, and you open it up and you just go.
It's a smelling salt. It'll wake you up for sure. You get your bell rung in a high school football game, this might bring you back. It's an aggressive palate. There is so much tobacco, along with that sooty ash note and that Laphroaig. And I tell you what, just the sherry just kind of comes in at the end. And again, I get a lot of milk chocolate on it. It's just more fruity sweetness. It is so mouth coating. It's almost like now getting almost like charcoal on the sides. Wow. Easily the most ashy, sooty Laphroaig I've ever had.
So I've had this twice with you, Mike.
And then maybe a little bit of root beer finish right at the end. I'm sorry, I threw that in at the end. Yeah.
I actually agree with you. It's sassafras.
That vanilla root beer finish.
So I've had this twice. And both times I had the thought of, it's good, it's a little thin, it's not wowing me on the mouthfeel. Buddy, this just punched my tongue, kicked me in the balls and said, who's your daddy? It's me. I'm not waiting for you to finish think about it.
It's aggressive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Super spicy.
It is spicy.
I mean, through and through. And I mean, up front, it's like some kind of cardamom, some kind of like something you'd get in like a weird, strange beer where they just were like throwing random spices at you. Or, and the oak comes in. And the oak's spicy too. And it's punching again. I mean, you could tell European oak for sure.
Still right now, the oak notes are still kind of there on the side. And again, this charcoal dusting over the whole thing. And I know charcoal isn't like something you normally think of as a good taste, but man, it is just goes so well with this whole experience. It's normal Laphroaig ash and soot, but this dark sherry cask is supercharged it into a coal.
Yeah. I mean, usually sherry adds sweetness, it adds fruits. And don't get me wrong, there's a nice sweetness up front. Woo! I mean, buddy, punch of oak, punch of spice. And I mean, I went back, definitely was able to kind of, I get a hint of more, you could say chocolate. I don't think that's what I would go to. It's sweet, it's fruity. Got a lot of really nice notes there. Very, very aggressive oak. Just wallops you afterwards. Oh man, I'm not getting any.
Yeah, there's so much ash and soot on this, man. It's so dirty of a whiskey. I'll say this. I'm not getting really any chocolate notes on it at all. So just to try to unravel what the cask is, I tend to probably agree with you that it's probably a second fill, but I think it's a PX cask. Maybe I'm completely wrong. But that dry, overly sweet fruit. I mean, dude, it's blackberries right now. It's raspberries, a dark cherry. And with all that ash and smoke, almost like you're standing in front of a house burning down. Man, it's everywhere. This is so coating.
Is just dead on a signatory Kalila 22, 23-year-old I have. I know we've had. This cask, the sherry notes are exactly the same The whiskey behind it's totally different, and the oak level here is night and day.
And what was that? A PX or Oloroso?
That was Oloroso. It was refilled
Maybe.
Oloroso. I'm thinking maybe recharred, Mike.
Maybe.
But like not heavily recharred, because again, heavy recharred starts getting, it's a different oak note. I don't know how they got this oak flavor coming out of it.
It's such unique Laphroaig. Such unique Laphroaig. Like,
and yet it's unmistakably Laphroaig.
Like, that's just what I was about to say. Yeah, you know it's Laphroaig. It's almost like that Compass Box and No Name 3. You know, there's a few things in there, but as soon as you're like, oh, that's Laphroaig for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you get it, but man, you've never had it with this much sherry. I mean, it kind of reminds me of those overly sherried Lagavulins, like the 21 from 2000 or from 1991, or some of the heavily sherried ones. It's just drenched, but it almost feels like the spirit is there toe to toe to match whatever the sherry cask is doing. It almost seems like it brought the best in it.
Well, I mean, and the thing is, you've got the sweetness of the sherry wine, you've got the spice of the sherried oak cask, and then you've got this insanely intense, relatively speaking, low ABV for cask strength Laphroaig malt, and they're all fighting. It's a three-way, and well, we're stuck in the middle.
Yeah, no. Yeah, again, I would say, I would not there call us a balanced whiskey, but it is an aggressive whiskey. It does a lot. Even now, just the spice is just lingering this so long on my palate.
I'm getting watermelon now, Mike, on the nose.
Yeah, I was going to say there was some type of red fruit developing. I was thinking more of a strawberry, but yeah, watermelon, I could see that.
It could be strawberry and oak, but when you put them together, I'm smelling like a watermelon.
You know, before you happened to say something like you thought it came off a little bit thin, Laphroaig is thin compared to Ardbeg or Lagavulin. I've said that to you before. Mm-hmm. It comes off as a thinner whiskey. It's just a smoky, but it's not as dense. I think this comes off as just any cask strength 25-year-old Laphroaig as far as its viscosity. But again, I just don't know how they amped up the smoke so much. It's almost like they put more parts per million in it as far as, like, you know, this particular batch of barley when they dried it. And I'm sure that wasn't the case.
I think it's the oak. I think the oak and smoke. I don't think you could separate when one starts and the other begins or finishes. Or I mean, they're just intertwined and intermingled. It's like the smoke just sat on that oak and they became one.
Yeah, they're intermingled heavily.
Man, yeah, now I'm getting much more barbecue. Like, before, barbecue was an element to the whiskey. Now with water, barbecue is...
Honey glaze. Honey glaze.
What about honey glaze?
That's what I'm smelling, man.
I'm getting, like, barbecue and... Maybe it's honey barbecue. We'll
All right, Dustin. So, inevitably, this is a tricky one. This is a quality whiskey, I know that. Again, a little unbalanced as far as the negatives. But one of the better Laphroaigs I've had. At least one of the more enjoyable Laphroaigs I've ever had.
Yeah.
Where you at as far as a whiskey score on this one?
Man. I had a number coming in, but I feel like I'm drinking a different whiskey today than that number.
That's why you had to give it time. We had to let this thing open up for a while.
And again, this is, I think, third time I've gone back to this. You know, we try to, on these more expensive bottles, we try to do a couple sessions with them. Cheaper bottles, you know, sometimes we just go in, you know, only one of us has had it. But we're pretty well versed on this one, and I'm telling you it's a different whiskey, Mike. But I think I've got to say I'm probably an 89. Thinking about a 90, but I think I'm letting the price want me to push up to 90. I think it's an 89.
I'm way different on this whiskey, man. I'm even picking up a little bit of tobacco notes now on this thing. And when I get to tobacco notes, that's always a good sign. I've been dancing back and forth between two numbers, and I'm going to go with the lower of those two numbers, but I'm still calling this a 92.
Wow. Yeah.
I enjoyed that much.
Yeah, I got to say, I find certain parts of this a little offensive. The spice level here is just too much for me.
Unbalanced, sure, but this is just as aggressive in a different way than, say, like the Cadenhead Highland Park 28s. I mean, this is a different whiskey, obviously, but to me, it's just as fun, just as enjoyable of a whiskey.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I think, you know, you probably need to like hot food.
Yeah, it's spicy. It's an aggressive whiskey.
I think, I mean, it's literally so spicy that I think you actually have to be somebody who appreciates, like, you know, Indian food. I kind of mentioned, like, the
spicy.
Spices.
I do like Indian food.
And I don't. And I think that's the difference. That's what's really kind of throwing me here is, like, it's just too much spice for me. I think that's what they're going for, so I can't bring it down below an 89 because it's exceptionally well put together whiskey. But man,
a bit much for you.
I don't want to drink it like a whiskey of this level should. Like, I should be salivating. Instead, I'm like, it's really good. I really like this. That spice go away now? Come on. And the water didn't get rid of it.
No, the water actually, if you don't like the spice, the water absolutely brought that spice up more, for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, it's funny because, again, the last time we had this, I was thinking, really nice sherry, really sweet, a little boring. It ain't boring today, folks.
Nope, not at all. All right, so that's where we're at. I'm quite a bit different on this one. I'm at a 92. Dustin's at an 89 on this one. So this is the SMOS.
Yeah, I was at a 90 before, just saying going in, I expected to give a 90. So just full disclosure.
Yeah,
there.
I was always between like a 92 and a 93, like from the beginning. It's a tricky whiskey, but I enjoy it. I bought another bottle after I had it one time.
Oh, I know.
But to each their own. So that's where it is for the Whiskey Score. If you guys had a chance to try this one, I'd like to know what you guys think. Again, only 464 bottles made, so not an easy one to get your hands on, but worthwhile if you like aggressive whiskeys.
I'm expecting there'll be a lot of bottle shares of this one out there from people who pick these up for groups.
Yeah.
So I expect a good 1,000 plus are going to get to try this one.
I hope so. Let us know what you guys think in the comment section. Until next time, Dustin, will we wish the folks?
Happy drinking.
We'll see you then.